Ali. This is Springbok Black. From the days when ASIC sponsored the Springboks. They're no longer
black.
Beautiful.
Now I've heard it all.
Beautiful one, eh?
There's an All Blacks green with a little bit of gold.
That Rassie press conference, magnificent. 20 glorious minutes of Rassie at his best. I just want to know what was in that cup.
Mate, yeah, he was having a couple of sips. He had a bit of a dry mouth.
What was in that cup, man?
I don't know, mate, but it must have been good.
He was on fire.
Yeah.
Great form, Rassie. Happy as the proverbial Larry.
Yeah.
And if people want to know what that means, I always wondered what happy as Larry meant. It was an Australian boxer in the amateur days, going back like 100 years, who fought for prize money for the first time and got given a lot of prize money for winning. And everyone would say, look at him, he's happy as Larry.
No way.
There you learn something every day.
Indeed.
So Rassie looked as happy as Larry.
Mate,
at that
he has
press
been a
conference.
highlight, hasn't he? Just watching him just absolutely have a blast with he just toys with everyone they play at the moment.
But
So much fun.
If you go back to traditional All Black Springbok press conferences, building up to an Ellis Park test, there's normally this very serious. You can just cut the tension. And Jasper Wiese had a front row seat to this whole performance. I think Jasper was asked 2 questions. One of them was by Rassie. And that was like a reporter asking him, why did you change your profile picture? And why are you following the All Blacks? And Rassie's answer is, I must have been a few beers in. That was just brilliant, mate. That was brilliant. And I just love the way he had his laptop open, but not in front of him, on the side. And he's just working those spreadsheets.
Mate, when he had to start referring to the spreadsheets to see who's next in line, then I knew this is a joke.
And then it's Evan, he's in.
Oh.
No, he's out. Then he can train, he's in. No, he's out. Then he can train, he's in. These poor Kiwi journalists are, is Evan playing or not? And we won't know till they run out on that field, because nothing would surprise me if he doesn't play, and nothing would surprise me if he plays. Obviously, if he plays, I think we've got a much, much better chance. And then we really have an 8 that we spoke about last week that we'd like to see. We'd like to see Peter Steff in the locks for this test match and bringing a Jasper and Aurich type off the bench. But the big talking point, and Rassie went into a lot of detail in his explanation, Fassi over Willie Leroux.
I mean, how did he just retire that guy at the press conference? A couple of weeks ago, he was the best fullback in the world. I was like, look, obviously, old man Willie Leroux is done. I was like, what?
It was hilarious because you said he's going to get to his 100 tests. He's going to probably give him 2 years to get there.
But mate, how's him saying we're going to get him to 100 tests? What happened to nobody's bigger than the game and all this stuff? What is going on?
I was very surprised in the context of an All Black test that we always knew he was going to start Sasha because that was always the plan. Like, let him play every game. Pollard's won two World Cups. You know what he's done. He's the insurance policy on the bench in terms of a one-off game. But the Willie Leroux fullback, Sasha fly-off, axis, brings you a far different dimension to a Fassi fullback and Sasha fly-off.
Totally. So that's the thing for me. Like, I love the fact that he's picked Gerard Steerkamp to start at loosehead and that he's backing Sasha to go. I think those are wise decisions, and I think those are brave calls in the context of you playing the All Blacks, the mighty All Blacks, for the first time since the final. I think those are great calls. Love that he comes out on a Tuesday, puts those guys on paper. But I was thinking that in the context of we're going to have Willie at the back controlling things, so there's law and order there. When you throw Fassi in, and don't get me wrong, Fassi's a fantastic prospect. We all love his upside. Great creative player, deadly on the counter-attack, speed, good under the high ball, could eventually be a great Springbok fullback, but he is 6 caps into his career. And so you're replacing an Oak who's close to 100 there, at the same time that you're playing a 6-cap fly-half ahead of Andre Pollard. So it's just an interesting dynamic that the decision to do that all at the same time is what kind of caught me by surprise there.
Do you think old Strandhond was maybe a bit naughty in the week?
Somebody said to me he's going to a wedding. I mean, what?
His own.
I mean, it's just the All Blacks, guys. I've got to be at a wedding.
It's a good one to miss. But even, and I love just how open he was, as Rassie always is, in terms of his answers. Flamboyant he was. It was just shits and giggles the whole time.
Glorious.
I was waiting for him to go through that the big presser, that Bok Nike insignia.
When
he
he
kept
flipped
on
back in his
leaning back. Thinking, this is going to complete the press conference as he goes through it. Okay.
Yeah.
But I knew Jasper would save him there. He would catch him there. And
By the neck.
You also got to admit, I mean, the way Rassie looks at Jasper, he really digs that. Okay.
Oh, he does. He enjoys him.
He's his
You're
boy.
right, yeah.
He's his boy at number 8. I'm very pleased to have him back. I really think he brings that physical dimension. We called for him. He's been with the squad for 6-7 weeks. And it makes sense to start him because if he runs out of puff after 40 minutes, you bring on whoever's on the bench. But if he didn't start and Ulrich Lowe starts at 8 and gets injured in the first 5 minutes, you think, does he have 75 minutes in him? So that to me was a very logical selection.
I'd say also there, Jasper is like a bit of a sledgehammer and probably great for the opening 20 minutes. Whereas potentially you bring somebody with a bit more legs on in the second half when it opens up.
He's just got to basically
not get suspended.
Find that balance again between taking an Oak out and taking an Oak's head up with wonderful enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Coming into that breakdown from about 40 meters.
Yeah.
Looking like he's doing a triple jump.
Although, I mean, a little asterisk, I will say that last suspension was for an incident that was laughable. I mean, I'm not even sure that's a penalty. How
Yep.
that
No,
got
it was
suspended for
ridiculous.
that
It was
a joke.
ridiculous. But it got him into prime shape.
Yeah.
6 weeks of training, getting ready for this game, and to kind of throw him back in the mix against the All Blacks. And let's not forget, heroic the way he picked up that ball in the World Cup final, last move of the game, drove against the wheel, and still managed to retain possession. Some would say dubious that Wayne Barnes didn't give New Zealand the penalty. I say great call in that moment.
Absolutely.
And Jasper did his job. But let's go back to Fassi. As Rassie was explaining, he's got to fly. He's got to fly against the All Blacks, okay? It's like we've worked on his issues, like his poor technique in the air, okay? His poor defense around this. He gave about 4 pointers that if the All Blacks hadn't have known, this guy has some vulnerable areas. He's just told them that.
Right.
Now, if you're a conspiracy theorist, as you are,
Yes.
Fassi comes through, it's happy days. He doesn't come through, he's ended the Fassi debate.
Yeah. And I think that's been something we've spoken about a few times, is that Rassie gives guys an opportunity, and there is
hand themselves.
risk. Yeah, there is risk. There is risk. Damien's not around. This is your shot against. You can't say I only played you against Portugal. I only played you against, tier 2 teams with nobody around you. You've got the best of the box. This is your opportunity to shine, and you must take it. And as much as we have a laugh about it, that really is that sort of furnace of fire is where you test guys and find out who's who.
No, I mean, I'm very chuffed that he's picked Fassi.
Me too.
Because if he comes through, the debate ends there.
Yeah.
If you've managed to play against the All Blacks in a test and been successful, you can play against anyone, okay?
And Apalele is a guy that we've been rooting for a long time. We've wanted to see the best of him. He's had his ups and downs. There seems to have been a few issues. It would be great if Fassi came through for the Springboks.
Looking at that mix, no surprises on the wing, no surprises in the midfield. But then two guys, through just form consistency of the incumbents, Lukhanyo and Keenan Moody. 2 seasons ago, it was like, you've got to pick Keenan Moody, whether it's at 13 or whether it's on the win. He's a 19-year-old sensation. Where does that leave Lukhanyo? We can't drop him. Best centre in the world at 13. And one man gets injured. Another one who's been in the mix since 2013, Jesse Creel, who's bided his time, has just been sensational in the last year.
Yeah.
He stays there. Curtly Orense takes his opportunity. Cheslin Colby's world-class. And Keenan Moody, through a combination of injury, unavailability, it's like, have we lost a big year with him?
Sure, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that he's a guy we are going to see feature in this rugby championship and then frequently on the end of your tour. I think he's a magnificent player with massive high ceiling, who's going to come through in a big way for the Boks for the next World Cup. So I'm sure that he's in Rassie's plans. You look at the age of Cheslin and KLA, neither of those two are youngsters. Keenan is going to be probably close to in his prime come that World Cup. So I'm sure he's going to work in. I just hope, like you say, I hope we haven't lost a season with that guy. And it sounds like he's pretty close to being ready to go.
If you think about the All Black test at Twickenham against the Springboks pre the World Cup, 35-0 up after an hour. We won 35-7. one of the greatest tries that was scored but wasn't scored, Kane Moody at 13, the way he glided through that defence. An outstanding performance from Manie Lebok that day. No penalty pressure put on him. Everything went to the corner. He kicked 5 from 5, most of them from the corner, because we just mauled and scrummed the All Blacks, who were also depleted in the first 20 minutes through injury. Had an interesting chat with Nick Mallet yesterday, and he keeps on referring to that game, and he doesn't buy into the theory that the All Blacks didn't want to win that game. He just feels that it's the first time we potentially got it right against them in a 7-1 split, and we weren't going for 3 points. If you maul them enough, and you maul a team enough, and you maul a team enough, you break them. And that kind of game just suited Manie Lebok to a T. We looked extravagant with our backs. We played with excuse me, we used our space so effectively. And if you think of how we played in the World Cup final, it was very different. We went back to that dogfight and that arm wrestle. Did we not take enough out of that Twickenham thing, or do we still look at it and think, wow, how did that happen? So let's never do that again.
I think a few factors are at play there. I think part of it is we caught the All Blacks at the right time under Fozzie. I don't think they were anywhere near to having their best day. I think that they weren't prepared for that 7-1 split, and on the day we got away with it, and it worked like a bomb, literally. So those are factors to consider. We had massive scrum dominance, and that kind of underwrites everything else that you do, because anytime you're in trouble, that scrum gives you a penalty and you're on the other side of the field. So I think all of those factors played into it. I mean, I think the Boks really stumbled onto something there. I don't know whether Rassie's not utilising it every week because he doesn't really want to piss the guys at World Rugby off any more than he already has. But I think it makes total sense. If it's within the laws and you've got the most abundance of the biggest forwards in the world, why wouldn't you flood them in the second half and do it all over again?
I would still love for him to go for an 8-0
Mate,
split.
100%. I say you just put backs on the bench. You just have a whole team of forwards.
8-0 split, and then bring on that whole pack on 45 minutes. and make sure that player safety is enhanced. Uncontested scrums. You see those oaks knock themselves up.
Yeah.
Looking at the Boks 23, there are not many surprises. I mean, the lock issue that we're talking about is 6 locks are out injured. The fact that you can still pick up Peter Steph du Toit and the captain of the Bulls, Rowan Nokia, as a lock pairing, and when you think that we're not picking 2 other Springboks overseas that are playing, and there's 6 that have played that are just not available, is there another country that's as blessed with lock depth as we are?
No, we've got more injured locks than Ireland has got locks. I mean, the depth of talent we have in the second row is ridiculous. So the fact that we can even... I mean, we are without 6 locks, potentially Eben Etzebeth, who's about to become the most capped Bok in history, and...
Bok lock
in history, yeah, sorry. And the Boks are the favourites in South Africa to beat the All Blacks, playing with their 7th and 8th choice lock.
Okay, but they're also playing with an exceptional front row on the bench, an exceptional bench, exceptional midfield, exceptional winners, and with an inspirational captain in Siya Kolisi.
Totally.
With a bulldozer in Jasper Wiese, and with one of the finds of the season in Ben Jason Dixon.
Yes.
So I kind of think it really doesn't matter who you put into that second row for this test match if the cohesion is there. Because I'm reminded of 2007 when we played the All Blacks in Durban and they beat us 26-21. We were 21-12 up with 3 or 4 minutes to go. A charge down, kick their score, and then typically back in the day, they get another try. And back then, Bakkies Buerta and Victor Matfield, for me, the best lock pairing in the modern game. We're our second row pairing. And the All Blacks arrived with, in locking terms, 2 midgets, okay? Troy Flavel and Greg Rawlinson.
Yeah.
The South African, and they beat us.
You still sound surprised.
And they beat us. And there was no kind of line-out dominance in that day. But those 2 guys, Flavel and Rawlinson, were very aggressive and kind of old school.
Who did we have in the front row that day? Do you remember?
I can't really remember offhand, but obviously that was the leveler, wasn't it?
Jeez, mate. That's incredible.
But
so this squad that Rassie's picked has got, I think, 6 or 7 Oaks with less than 7 test caps to their name. So as much as we talk about cohesion, and the Boks do have a lot of cohesion, and they've got some great veterans in there, it's that funny feeling we've had this whole rugby championship. We're like, yes, but no. No, but yes.
Look, but I like what he's doing because it's like a seamless integration. So he's effectively changed some particularly key areas, and it's like you don't even notice because of how he's changed them, okay? So it's like he's given Fassi the comfort of the two informed winners who have been there through the latest World Cup and won it. He hasn't tampered with the midfield. I get the sense that if it goes well at Ellis Park, you could find 8 changes for Cape Town.
Totally.
And he seems to be hinting at that as well.
Yeah.
You could find Manie Lebok starting in Cape Town.
Totally.
You could find Kanan Moody starting in Cape Town. Lukanya I'm starting in Cape Town. Because for him to do the double over the All Blacks, basically with 2 different squads, as he did against Australia, well, there's your answer. There's the depth that he's talking about. And it's not that he's handing on to the guys who won the 2019 and 2023 World Cups. He's brought in kids, and he's brought them in very quickly. So Fassi he brought in a couple of years ago. Issues with his work ethic, issues with certain elements of his game. But he's brought him back based on his URC form. Sasha, he just knew he was a gem. When he saw him, he's like, you got to play this guy. He's like a Dan Carter type talent.
Yeah.
Manie Lebok, I don't think they're going to chuck him away. I think he'll be in the mix because, again, attrition. A player goes down, all of a sudden, who would have thought Stephen Donald would be kicking the match-winning penalty in the 2011 World Cup final? He was 5th on the All Black fly-off choice.
Or that Ruan Nokia would be starting against the All Blacks at Ellis Park.
Exactly, but then who would have thought the potential of what's starting for the All Blacks? They only announced their team, I think, on Thursday.
Yeah.
But it's Sam Derry, who's just come through in his first season. Like you say, not knocking his qualities, but he's in his first season. And what's it, Vai?
Yeah, Tupou Vai, and then obviously Scotty
And
Barrett.
to me, he's great off the bench, Vai. He's not really a starting option. I would never see him as that. Scott Barrett does give them mongrel, but he's a bit like Jasper. We taunt him a bit, niggle him a bit, and he could be off with a yellow card or a red card.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people like sweeping changes. I don't think there was sweeping changes. There's a lot of thought that's been put into the first team where fitness hasn't been a factor. Reinach starting at 9, he's always going to start. Sasha was going to start at 10, given the plan that they had. And they've gone with form, without a doubt. And I also like the fact that they've gone with a very physical pack. And just, again, a very potent bench. And they just look relaxed. And I know the last time they looked so relaxed, they took a whipping in the last 6 minutes against the All Blacks. But that press conference was just hell of a fun.
Glorious.
And it was glorious. I mean, and to come out on a Tuesday and say, this is our team, to have the laptop out there, to just be sipping on God knows what, to be laughing, to just be in his own world. Having the best time of his life, but also showing the contest and the occasion the necessary respect.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the All Blacks after all.
So what I also, for me, that squad is great. The only bolter there was Fassi. Like, I think the Steenkamp thing makes total sense. The lock is injury necessitated. Faf is out with an injury. So Fassi for me was the only surprise selection. But then what I would also say is that the Boks play the All Blacks twice now. Then it's Argentina. And then it's Scotland, England and Wales. So if he's going to try out these guys that he thinks he might have to take to the next World Cup, the youngsters, these 2 tests against the All Blacks and potentially England at the end of the year are the 3 opportunities to test them against teams that are dinkum. And so it makes sense that this is the moment.
Look, and Scotland and Wales will offer nothing. England, well, they looked impressive against the All Blacks, but then Argentina rolled the All Blacks. And then Felix Jones left. And
imagine Jacques Nino was on the shortlist, mate.
Imagine Felix Jones is in their box setup when they play England. Rassie Eugenius, he's sending everyone there. Go there for 6 months and get out of there.
Yeah.
But SA Rugby Magazine's cover, get ready for Rassie and Razor. It's been on the shelves for the last month. Maybe 6 weeks. And through that, on the Keo side, I wrote a piece just looking at my numbers again. And there's some remarkable similarities. The headline that I put there was Rugby's terrific twins separated at birth.
Yes.
Now, I'm not comparing Razor as an international coach to Rassie because one's been in the game in the test level into his 6th season. The other one won 7 Super Rugby titles. Sporty would say not 7, but he won 7.
Yeah.
Be it internationally, with Australia and New Zealand teams and South Africa, or without the South African teams. So he has to go 6 seasons for us to see how good he's going to be as an All Black coach. But remarkable similarities between the two. They both loose forwards. Erasmus's test career, 97 to 2001. Robinson, 98 to 2002. Erasmus played 36 tests for the Boks, 75% win record. Robinson played 23 tests for the All Blacks, 74% record. Rassie played 5 tests against the All Blacks between 98 and 2002. He won 3 for a 60% record. Erasmus played his first test against the All Blacks in 98. Boks won 24-23. Robinson played his last test against the Boks in Durban. The All Blacks won 30-23. Erasmus played 11 test teams in his career and had a 100% win record against 6 teams. Robinson, 11 test teams in his career, 100% win record against 6 teams. In Robinson's first test against the Boks in Durban in 98, Bob Skinstad played off the bench. In Robinson's last test against the Springboks in Durban in 2002, Bob Skinstad started at number 8. Erasmus's worst winning percentage as a player is against Australia, 4 from 8, 50%. Robinson's worst winning percentage as a player, Australia, 2 from 5, 40%. Erasmus in his last test against the All Blacks, won 40 at Ellis Park in 2000. Robinson in his last test against the Boks, won 30-23 in Durban in 2022. Erasmus in his first home test series as a Springbok coach beat England in a series, winning the first 2 of the 3 tests in Joburg and Bloemfontein. Robinson in his first home test series as All Blacks coach in 2024 beat England in Dunedin and in Auckland. Erasmus's Springboks in their latest test against England in the World Cup semi-final won 16-15. Robinson's All Blacks in his first test against England won 16-15. Robinson is 49, Rassie is 51. As Rassie says, the only difference at the moment is that he may be slightly fatter.
And he has a sword.
And he has a sword. Eh? A sword which is a lot better than a razor blade. But how incredible are those similarities?
Incredible.
In terms of the numbers.
Incredible.
And then we go back and we look at Test rugby at Ellis Park in the professional era. But first in the amateur era, there's some wonderful stats that I kind of dug out and I found. We played 7 test matches between the first one and the 1995 World Cup final. In the first 6, the average score was 15-12 to the Springboks. The World Cup final score was 15-12 to the Springboks. Okay?
Crazy.
Now we look at playing at Ellis Park. We've played 8 times since professionalism in 1996. The Boks have won 4 and the All Blacks have won 4. The All Blacks have scored 248 points. That's 31 points a game. And the Boks have scored 247. That's 30.8. So in the Sunday Times column that I wrote, I said, anyone picking a 31-all draw on Saturday. So it's remarkable how close these two teams are. There's been the odd blowout, Twickenham, and when we went with a team that was cold, and we played them at Mount Smart, and we were down by 20-odd points early on, came back to 35-20. Other than that, it's been 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. 1 point, it doesn't matter where they've played.
Yeah.
And I keep on saying, let's not forget, 12-11 in the World Cup final. They played without Sam Cane, their captain, for the best part of 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And were 1 down for I think 50 minutes of that test in terms of numbers. And Mwanga missed a conversion, and Geordie Barrett missed a penalty in the last 2 minutes, 3 minutes. They could have won them that test match and won them the World Cup final. So context to these guys. They took a beating in Nelspruit and came back the next week. We're down 23-21 with 6 minutes to go. Scored 2 fantastic tries and got a bonus point win, 35-23 at Ellis Park in front of 62,000 nutters. I mean, I'm not dismissing them as easily as some people are.
Can't be, mate. The All Blacks are the All Blacks. And we would have said this in the build-up to the Twickenham test when they took a hiding. And they would have said this about the Boks before they put 57 points on them in New Zealand. So the reality is that these two teams are arch rivals, and it comes down to the wire here in South Africa. And you've got to believe that, you know, even though we've made a lot of changes and they aren't at their best, this is going to be a cracker on the weekend.
All right. I mean, we've spoken enough about the Boks. We're comfortable with where they are at the moment. We'll chat a bit later in the week again with our predictions. We'll know whether Evan's playing or not playing. Can't wait for another Rassie Rasmus press conference. The All Blacks announced their side on Thursday, okay? Interesting to see, one, the composition of the backs, now that there's no Liam McDonald. And then also interesting to see their style of play, now that there's no attack coach in Liam McDonald. Your wonderful thoughts, Zels, because I've given a big sermon here. I really need to I need to give you some opportunity.
Take a sip from the cup. Take a sip from the cup, mate. No, so listen, what I found interesting about the naming of the All Black squad for the South African leg of the Rugby Championship was Beauden Barrett listed as a fly half. They listed Damien McKenzie and Beauden Barrett at fly half. And I wonder how central Beauden was to the, I wouldn't say fallout, but to Liam McDonald's exit from the All Blacks management team. I don't know sort of strategically how much him and Razor differ there. So I'm expecting Bowden to start at 10 with Will Jordan at fullback. We ran a little poll on the WhatsApp channel for this Keo Zels show, and most of the respondents on there agree, play Bowden at 10 and Will Jordan at fullback. And I think that changes that team quite dramatically, especially when you're playing a 6-test fullback against these guys on the high felt, and Rassie's gone out of his way to say, hey, drop bombs on him. So I think Bowden at 10 and Will Jordan at fullback definitely gives the All Blacks a bit more sting. I think their midfield selection is going to be crucial, given they're going up against Muscletech and Dukes, and how important our two centres are going to be in taking the pressure off this changed up Bok pack that's missing second rowers. So I think this All Blacks team can be fired. They do have questions in their second row. Their back row is pretty underwhelming. But aside from that, they've got real sting in a bunch of other positions across the park, and arguably the world's best outside backs.
If you look at Beauden Barrett, he's always troubled us when he's played at 10, more so than when he's played at 15. I think of that 57-15 win in Durban. I mean, he was just sensational at 10 that day. Look, the pack was on the front foot all afternoon.
Yeah.
But and then there was that 57-0 win in Albany. They were the back-to-back tests, a season apart. But a big number 8 has always troubled the South Africans. It's kept our loose forwards busy, and it's kept our 9 busy. A Damian McKenzie type player doesn't trouble us because he plays so far back, he can't play flat. And the thing we want them to do is start running it from coast to coast at altitude. They've tried that soften in the past and they come unstuck. That you would think that the most logical selection would be Beauden Barrett. And if they then do pick Geordie Barrett at 12, he takes the goal kicks. Or Beauden Barrett takes the goal kicks. You know, he scored 740 plus points in Test rugby. So he can kick. He may have missed some pressure kicks, one of them being that 36-34 conversion in Wellington against the Boks. But he can kick. It's a bit like telling Damian Williams he can't kick. He can kick. And I've been very surprised that they haven't gone with him at 10. Because to a degree I could understand the Richie Mwanga and Beauden Barrett dilemma that Fozzie had. He couldn't quite make a call. But here, if you look at how do you fit all those pieces into place, like Mark Taylor for me is their best winner. Hard, physical. He'll trouble our guys and he breaks tackles. We'll disagree on this, but Caleb Clark also a big physical suspect on defense, but physical on attack. Will Jordan without comparison. I don't think they know who their midfielders are as such. You like SARugbymag, but I don't see where. I think Damian McKenzie will be gone after this rugby championship, especially when Mwanga comes back, and his value will be off the bench.
I think Damian McKenzie is a fabulous player who could start for most Test nations, but it's a bit like having a gimmicky loose forward in South Africa and saying he should start for the Springboks. The Springboks have got a wealth of talent in the back row. We're a factory for those guys. We don't need to try and play gadget players to try and get an advantage because we can just brute force it. And in New Zealand, they've got an abundance of those kind of players who don't necessarily have D-max downside, which is that he gambles and loses sometimes. So, yeah, I've been surprised that he's played as much as he has there, and that's taking nothing away from him as a player. I'm just saying in the Test arena, margins are tight. You want a guy with superb game management. I think Beauden fits that bill better. I'm not a huge fan of Beauden's kicking game in general, and I think Rassie talking about Fassi is to try and get Beauden to engage in a kicking battle, because I think Beauden's USP is that he's a big-bodied guy close to the gain line who has wheels, and if he can stretch you right there next to the source, he can create problems and almost bring that pack into the game because he's getting across the gain line himself. That can be dangerous.
Do you see someone like a David Havili being involved in this Test match, also on the history of what he did in 2022?
I think that Razor trusts Havili. He knows Havili, he knows what he can do, and so that may count in his favour. In my opinion, the All Blacks need to get a bit more boring in the backs and be more fundamental. As much as Geordie Barrett has the 6'5" frame and arms that can get out of the tackle, and that gives him something unique, I think they are missing that gain line monster. And as crazy as it sounds, I would totally consider a guy like Caleb Clark to shift in at 12, almost like what Maananu did and what Tana Umanga did, and give them some punch right there to take some of the pressure off the 10 and also be a guy that concentrates the defense around a big physical thumper who can go forward.
If you look at if you were picking the All Black backline for Saturday's thriller, give me your. It may be completely different to what Razor and his co-coaches do. Who would you pick?
Yeah, so if there's no backdrop to this, in other words, if the history that leads up to this test is what has actually happened, I think you've got to stay with pretty much what they've done, which is Geordie Barrett at 12. I'd have Bowden at 10 and Will Jordan at the back. And then at 13, I'd look at somebody like Anton Leonard-Brown, who I know defensively is going to close down that channel. I'm a huge fan of Sevu Reece because I think he's got almost that Hogarth factor. He can create something out of nothing. In space, he's deadly. He's diminutive and rapid without giving anything away physically. He can look after himself at the breakdown. I think Talia is a great finisher and a very smart player and very strong on his feet. So I'd have those two on the edge. And then I suppose the big question is at 9. Do you go with the youngster who's maybe a little bit less known, but then is a little bit less known for both teams? Or do you go with the physicality of a more experienced veteran there? I don't know what you do at 9 there.
What backline would you pick that you believe could trouble the box? And then how would you, if you were coaching the All Blacks, where do you think and how could you fashion a victory on Saturday?
I think that you have got to, I think you've got to take advantage of whatever opportunities you can create in the kicking game, because I'm not sure, even with the depleted second row, that you can knock the front door down against the box. You've got to try and get Jasper Wiese racking up run meters in the kicking game to go and cover kicks and chase kicks. And as much as that brings the Bok D into the game, I think it also papers over some of the weaknesses that the All Blacks have up front. If the All Blacks engage in a running game and the handing errors start to go up, that just brings the box scrum straight into the match. And then you're defending, mauls. So I think you've got to keep the ball on that side of the field, give the ball to the box, hope and trust that your defense can stack up and at least contain it, and try and make any sort of penalty or unforced error happen on the right side of the halfway line. I think that gives the All Blacks a chance.
Looking at the England 2 test matches and how much the All Blacks struggled again with the Bok blitz defense that Felix Jones had introduced. And Razor kept on saying we were one pass away, one moment away. And I've heard that rhetoric for 20 years when a good Bok blitz defense has troubled kind of the All Blacks. I go back to that game in 2005 in Newlands. They had 18 line breaks, and John de Villiers made one intercept. We won 22-16 and Monty kicked the rest of the points. And that was the team that had come back from demolishing the Lions in that year. So, again, they won't have had that intensity of our defense outside of those opening 2 test matches against England. And that's what's significant for me, is how much change are we going to see on Saturday with no Liam McDonald there? How significant was that relationship, and how detrimental was it to any form of cohesion or clarity in how they wanted to play?
Yeah, I think the All Blacks have just got to take the pieces that are vulnerable. And I think that seam in the defense, we press hard, we try and catch you, man and ball arrive at the same time on defense. The space on attack is that seam at the edge where the wing is shot up and there's a bit of the decision to make, because the open side wing on attack has got a huge vacant plot in front of him where if you drop a cross kick in, there's an opportunity. And I think Bowden has proven time and again that he can drop those dimes. He can throw those rainbows to those guys on the edge. And if they start hitting those guys there, then that press suddenly has to, check. It has to think before it goes up. And I think there's opportunities there for the All Blacks to get momentum, to slow that Bok defense down, maybe create a bit of doubt, especially against a rookie fullback who's going to be, trying to marshal things with less experience than Willie Leroux.
So the All Blacks have been very quiet.
Extremely.
By All Black standards.
Deathly.
At one stage, I had to check if they were actually here. And we've kind of been, when I say we, the South African public have been rightly bullish again.
Yeah.
And I saw that there was a big poster put up, billboard, near Ellis Park, that just reminded everyone of the World Cup final score, 12-11. Now, again, there can be no redemption for the World Cup. It's gone, it's played. Doesn't matter what happens here. we won that World Cup. And no matter what New Zealand says, 2 missed kicks. It's everything that we said in 95, what the Kiwi said in 95. Mertens missed in the last minute of the game. There would have been 12-9 to New Zealand, and Springbok rugby story would have been a lot different.
Very much
so. The score's in the books, as the old boy Lowe would say, looks in the books. How significant, because James Ryan is there as the forwards coach, how significant, how much will they lean on that 2022 comeback when they got demolished, 26-10, and came back and beat us, 35-23, 4 tries to 2, and played till the 80th minute and ended the stronger side. Vili's try being an exceptional one.
Yeah, I don't know so much about whether it's that game. I think it's the ethos that led to that performance that will be central to the All Blacks revival with Razor and Jason. I think those two guys have an MO, have a philosophy about rugby, and are able to build teams that are efficient and smart, but also physical at the same time. New Zealand teams. And so I think that's what they did at the Crusaders. They inherited a team where they basically overhauled it and were very successful. So I think Jason, Ryan, and Razor are going to bring the best out of this All Black squad, even though they are depleted. There's going to be a savvy and a savageness to this All Black pack that wouldn't be there with Fozzie. And potentially, McDonald was potentially getting in the way of that. Maybe that was part of the issue. Razor's teams are smart and they don't stand back. So you've got to expect more of that this week.
An interesting Razor calling Sam Cane the sheriff, but just with a different role in the setup.
And the very Rassie thing about that, right? Like that guy, his career was over, ends in ignominy. He's red card in the World Cup final. The All Blacks lose. It's all over. He's going to Japan. Bit of a butt of jokes. Interesting that he's got him back into the mix just in time to face those guys again at their home hunting ground. And the first thing he says in the media is, no, it's nothing personal. It's not about redemption. It's just about this week. Like, the timing of it is, goose fleshish.
And he's also a guy that he followed the mighty McCaw. He was never going to be adored. He was never going to be given the dues. But he's a guy that has a lot of respect from the box. And a lot of respect within that All Black setup. It just could be that he needed to be there as a player, not necessarily as the run-on captain.
100%. And look, I certainly haven't been a cheerleader for Sam Cane, but the guy's played a lot of rugby. He's got a lot of raps from a lot of people for being a really good player. And if you look at his career and you kind of look at how it's all led up to this point, like this really is a... his performance in this match and this result could be very definitive for his career, and I don't think that's a point that's lost on Sam Cane or Razor or the box. So the timing is right.
All Blacks against the Springboks in South Africa, in the Republic. It's going to be glorious. Ellis Park the first one, and then we come down to Cape Town for the second one. That's going to be history as well, because they've never played at the Cape Town Stadium. I think 7 or 10 of these All Blacks had never been to South Africa before. So just going to be wonderful. And we've got a wonderful initiative courtesy of Vili Delport and eBets. We are going to purchase, Zels and myself, when I say we, eBets are going to help us purchase that. We're going to purchase 2 season tickets to the Stormers to watch them go and do very well in the URC. And because of that, we get to purchase 2 tickets for the Springboks against the All Blacks at Cape Town Stadium. You just have to go to our WhatsApp channel to find out how to enter. There's a couple of terms and conditions do apply. And by next Wednesday, we're going to give away that incredible gift. So once again, thanks to Vili, thanks to the support at eBets, and we'll be chatting on the WhatsApp channel and on socials about that. But for now, we're another 24 hours closer to the All Blacks and the Springboks World Cup final revisited. Zels and I are going to chat on Thursday once we know the All Black team. And then we will know if Bodie Barrett's at 10:15 on the bench.
With the interception, no one will catch him. The angle of attack.